Hello! For my playoff bracket this season, it's gonna be different because my team is not in it. I decided to make two brackets this year, one where I'm trying to go for the absolute most chaos possible, and then my actual thoughts. And so for most chaos possible, I think it must include, matchups that are going to be really, interesting. And so for that reason, I'm going to automatically start off by saying Tampa Bay wins this in Game 7. Of course it does, and then Toronto can lose its mind again. And then we're going to have Florida win, so we have a battle of Florida on the East Coast. And then on the West Coast, we're going to have Edmonton and Calgary, so we have a battle of Alberta on the West Coast. I honestly think this will create the most drama possible, most things that the NHL can milk you for. Edmonton versus LA, probably 6 games, just because, I don't know. And then Calgary, I'm going to say sweeps the Stars. Another possible scenario that I did entertain the idea of was Toronto moving on here, so that way when Boston inevitably, I'm just going to try to... It would have a then Boston-Toronto in the semifinals and then Boston beating them in 7. I think, honestly, it would be more torturous for them to have Tampa Bay move on because of the fact that they wouldn't be able to relish in the success of finally moving past the first round and then the second round, etc. So I decided to go with the Battle of Florida as more dramatic than this being a potential semifinal matchup. For St. Louis and Minnesota, I think it would be more dramatic for Vegas fans if Minnesota won with Fleury in net, because then our fan base will literally still be ripping itself to shreds. Which duo is more iconic, Toronto in the first round or Colorado in the second round? Minnesota, because the Tyson Jost trade from Colorado to Minnesota. So I'm gonna say Colorado in 5, Calgary in 4, Edmonton in 6, and then this is a Game 7. Picking the most drama here, I think it could be fun for Pittsburgh and then Carolina. Why not? And the reason I'm going this far is you'll see Tampa Bay goes on to the conference finals because Florida just, keeps running into the Tampa Bay. And then Pittsburgh will go on so that we have the last 2 teams to win 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups facing off once against each other. So Pittsburgh can either maintain Tampa Bay is a 2-time champ, and I think that they will. So Pittsburgh in the finals off of no real other thing other than just, making sure that Tampa Bay cannot move on to do the three-peat. And then on this side, McDavid versus McKinnon would be fun, but I'm having Colorado lose in the second round again. It would be Minnesota against one of these two. Who would be more good? The Gaudreau brothers against each other. Why not? Let's have that. And of course, Frederick Gaudreau is going to win. So now we have Minnesota against Pittsburgh, Fleury against his former team in the Stanley Cup final, because isn't that so much fun, guys? And of course, Fleury is going to lose to Pittsburgh for the most drama. So the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be the 2022 Stanley Cup champions according to Chaos, with the tiebreaker being, let's do 67. All right, so this is my real one, as evidenced by the 22, because that's my favorite number. So I actually do think Colorado is going to beat Nashville. Shocker. I think Minnesota, St. Louis, like I said earlier, it's going to be between if they start Talbot or Fleury, because St. Louis lights up Talbot. That's why they've beaten Minnesota 3 times this season. I think Fleury would give them a better opportunity over St. Louis specifically. Calgary and Dallas, I really want Calgary to go far this season. One of my best friends, Spencer, he cheers for the Calgary Flames, and so I'll be cheering alongside with him. Edmonton and LA I actually think is interesting. I do think that LA gets the better of Edmonton, robbing us of a battle of Alberta in the second round, because of Danault being one of the best shutdown centers of the league, and being able, I think if he's able to shut down McDavid, then you're really screwed, Edmonton. So I'm going to say LA in 6, Calgary in 4, Colorado in 5, this one in 7, just like I did for the Chaos one, because I'm consistent. Jump over to the first round on the east side now. I do think Florida beats Washington. I think Toronto ends up beating Tampa Bay. Don't have any real reason for thinking that. I just think that they're finally able to exercise their demons, and then Toronto fans are going to be so hyped and annoying for the rest of the summer, no matter where they end up doing for the rest of the playoffs. including getting swept by Florida, but hey, who knows. Carolina versus Boston. I know that Carolina has some goaltending issues right now with not really sure if Anderson or Ronta starting. I think Ronta started game 82, so I think he might get the nod if Anderson's not ready to go. And even if Anderson was ready to go, he's kind of known to have those moments in the playoffs with Toronto, but who knows, it could have just been Toronto. Nevertheless, I do think Carolina is so deep that it's going to be really hard for Boston, who really only has 1.5 lines, including, former Vegas Golden Knights Eric Howland, Tomas Nosek. I think Carolina is able to beat out Boston. And then between New York and Pittsburgh, I can never really count out Crosby, but with how dangerous and lethal New York has been, I think it's really going to depend on Shesterkin being able to turn it on in the playoffs, but I am going to choose New York over Pittsburgh, and I'm going to say 5 games, honestly. For Carolina and Boston, I think it also will be a shorter series. Florida and Washington, I think, go 6. And there's no way Toronto Maple Leafs win a Game 7, so you need to close out the series before Game 7, so I'm going to say Game 6. Moving on, I think Calgary is going to beat Los Angeles. Even if Vegas were to have made the playoffs, I think Calgary comes out of the Pacific Division. That first line has been killer all season, with 40 goals apiece among all 3 of them is a crazy statistic. Jumping to the other side of the West, I actually think Minnesota gets the better of Colorado. Not just because, if you look at the matchups, it's definitely favored in Colorado for most of them. All of them. If Nazem Kadri is able to, not get suspended this playoffs, then they have a better chance than they did against Vegas last season. But I would like to see Minnesota just go farther. And so that means in the Western Conference Final, we have Minnesota versus Calgary. However, in the East side, I am going to say Florida. Just because I feel like the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be like plankton. They never thought they'd get this far, so they didn't really plan for the second round. And Florida is just so deep this year. Honestly, the Atlantic Division is really crazy. And with Giroux that they acquired at the deadline, and if everyone's able to stay healthy, I think if Ekblad is coming back in the second round, I really find it hard to believe that, I don't know, I'm going Florida. Carolina and New York. I'm gonna pick New York here just because I don't want to keep picking the 1 seeds. And I didn't pick it over here, obviously, but everywhere else I've picked mostly the favorite, and I think there's got to be some upset somewhere. And I think, honestly, New York and Carolina came down to the end. I think Shesterkin will beat any of the goaltenders that Carolina is able to pull up. I also don't want Tony DeAngelo getting anywhere past the second round because it's Tony DeAngelo. So for the conference finals, these are the 4. I am going to choose Calgary. And you know what? I'm going to choose New York. And I think New York comes up short again, and it's Calgary that wins. I don't know. I think this playoffs, it's really all up in the air with who you think is going to make it in the East. There are going to be so many different brackets out there. But then for the West, I honestly think it's mostly people picking Colorado and Calgary. Yep, I don't know. This is what I want to have happen. I'm going to say the Stanley Cup is won in 6 games in homage to the definite goal against the Tampa Bay Lightning back in 2004, so that they actually win it in 6, and I'm going to say that it would be 38. Well, let me know your guys' picks. I'm also going to show you my son made a bracket, so that'll be fun. I put him in the AHL because that's what made sense. Because he's my son, and that's the Sun League. Yep, I see Doc Hudson, bud. So, for Logan's picks, he picked... I pulled up the logos on the left and right sides of the screen and just had him pick one, and this is what he picked. He picked the tiebreaker numbers as well, by the way. So I'd ask him for a number and he would say a number. So he picked Nashville in 5. Good luck, kid. Minnesota in 5. Dallas in 6. Really good luck, kid. Los Angeles in 7. And then he picked Nashville and Dallas to win from the West, and then Dallas, and then eventual Stanley Cup champion Dallas Stars. On the East, he picked Florida over Washington, Toronto over Tampa Bay in Game 7. So there you go, Leafs fans. Carolina over Boston, New York over Pittsburgh, Carolina over New York, Florida over Toronto, Carolina over Florida, and then over in the Stanley Cup final, Dallas over Carolina with 42 as the number. He actually gave me 2 numbers. It was 21, but I thought that was too low, and then he gave me 2, so I just multiplied the 2 together. But yeah, those were our picks. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and good luck to everyone that made a bracket this season.